I'm Vanessa, and today we're going to talk about things that you need to know before getting tattooed. A lot of people go into a tattoo shop, usually drunk. I want this thing because it means so much to me, and they want it on them, and then they're stuck with it forever. So there are some things that you need to know before you get tattooed. Portfolio. That's going to be one of the biggest things. I think it's one of the biggest things because it's an actual presentation of your artist's work. They're going to put in their portfolio everything that they think is great. So if they're proud of it and it's something they spent a lot of time on and they think it's worth something, they're going to stick it in their portfolio. So if you go in and there's something in someone's portfolio and you're like, wow, you're proud of this? Chances are that's not the person you want to tattoo you. Then you want to look for certain things like line work, if it's even, if it skips, or if it's blown out. A lot of times if the line gets really wide at one point, either they went too deep and it blew out under the skin. That's a big thing. Gradients going from light to dark and like how smooth that is another thing you want to look for. Also fallout. Fallout is something here that a lot of times you won't see it in fresh tattoos. So usually in a portfolio it's a tattoo, they just finished it, put some saran wrap on it, and then took a photo of it after they pulled it off and it's nice and clean, gave it a little time to bleed, so they get a good photo. But a lot of times if you find a healed photo, look and see if there's any fallout, which is like where there's blank spots or it's where the artist had chewed the skin a little too much. So that's your portfolio. This is a fun little example. This is a model. Her name is Kelly Eden. Both these tattoos were based off that same picture. So if I walked in somewhere and I said, I want Kelly Eden and I want her to have Day of the Dead makeup, is that what I want? So here's another better version of it. And it's just something with your portfolio. This is why you look at a portfolio, because you can walk in and anybody can say, oh yeah, I could totally do that. And you can come up with number one or number two. Expenses. A lot of people walk in and they, oh, tattoos are so expensive. Why are they so expensive? You know, machines really aren't part of the expense. Like they are and they're not. They're something that someone needs. You need a good, reliable machine to be tattooed with. But when it boils down to things like inks and needles, they are very inexpensive. So in doing the math, depending on what kind of machine you're using, with traditional either coil or rotary machines, what they'll do is use disposable tubes, and then your needle, and your ink caps, and all that fun stuff. So adding everything together with water wash cups, lights, seating, you know, it's all going to be something that's reusable, that's broken down. Then it'll be like $10 to $12 per sitting. Cartridges are a new thing. So it's basically it's like the tube and the needle in one little tiny thing. They just snap it in so they can use one machine for the whole go-around. Whereas if you're using reusable tubes, a lot of times there's 2 to 3 machines going. Cartridge machines I think they're really neat because it takes out a lot of the time. You just pop out one, snap in the other, and just keep going. They are a lot more expensive though because you have to have a special tube, and then you have all your different cartridges. On here it's not very easy to see, but they start between a single cartridge between like $240 and like $450 for one cartridge. So you're almost doubling or tripling the cost in just cartridges. So then you're like, where's my money going? You know, I looked at the Department of Labor Statistics, and for a regular fine artist, that's someone who is painting, sculpting, you know, all that fun stuff, not on skin. Hourly is the mean $21.56 an hour. So tattoos are going to run you from $50 an hour to $1,000 an hour, but the average price for a good artist is $150 because one, they think they're worth it, and two, who's going to pay $1,000 an hour for tattoos? How are you going to really make your business off that? So online, when I was looking, the one person I found that went for $1,000 an hour was someone who tattooed like movie stars and clothing designers. So like Marc Jacobs goes to a guy who charges him $1,000 an hour for a nautical star, and I just don't understand that. I liked the little respect thing. This came from a website called Beyond the Ink. It's a girl who goes around to tattoo shops, and she likes to teach tattoo education and things you need to know before you are getting tattoos. So you're not stuck with something that you really love forever. So she goes into price quotes, haggling. Haggling's not nice. You don't want to haggle your tattoo artist because they're in there, they're doing this, and they're your artists. They know what's going on. And then there's flash versus custom. Flash is the stuff that you find on the wall. In a lot of shops, you'll still see the flash racks on the wall, and you can have your kanji and your different writing that you want. Everybody will do that. This is Sailor Jerry Flash, which is traditional but is becoming more popular again. So between like flash and custom, I think the biggest thing, like on here it says pick it and stick it. A lot of times if there's a shop that's on a strip next to a bunch of bars, a lot of times people call it pick it and stick it shop. You walk in, you look at the flash, you say, I like this means something to me. You have it put on and you go. There's not really a whole lot of love in that. It's kind of like, okay, I'm going to buy my art from Walmart from now on because it's the same thing. Custom artwork, a lot of artists, if you give them a great idea, they'll give you an amazing deal on a custom piece of artwork. It's the same with sketches. So, like, if you go on Instagram and you follow tattoos on Instagram or different tattooers, a lot of times they'll post sketches 3-4 times a week. Here's this price for this sketch, $300, and it's going to take them 5 hours to do it. So you're actually getting pretty cheap. Then it comes to art on demand, and that's, I think, where most of your money is coming from because you have a person who is sitting here and giving you art on demand. So you walk in, this is what I want, this is how I want you to give it to me, this is where I want it to be, and a lot of times we're wrong about that. Sometimes it doesn't work. Like, you don't just walk in and say, oh, I want a chest piece. This guy, I'm quite sure, walked in and said, I want a flaming heart with wings, but I want it right here, which is not going to happen. It's not going to translate well. This is a really fun piece, I think, because it goes, and it really shows the whole custom look of it. He drew on with a Sharpie. Then he went through and he did the line work, and then I guess it's probably over at least 2 months going through with like different sittings, and then the finished product, which I think is really fun. Sharpie tattoos are my favorite because they can sit there and draw on you, and you're like, this looks like a hot mess. And then when you get it done, it's perfect, and beautiful, and fun, and it fits your body the way it should. Now we're going to talk about scratchers. Scratchers are essentially tattooers who work out of their home. A lot of times, this was fun, I found this on Facebook. He wanted that, went to a scratcher and got that, and that's something that happens all the time. So you'll hear kitchen magicians a lot, and it's just, a lot of times they haven't had an apprenticeship. If you have a tattooer who hasn't had an apprenticeship, they're really big on respect in the industry, and they feel like if this is something you're going to do, you're not just going to come and do it for a year. You're going to come in, you're going to learn, and they will abuse apprentices. Like, do some of the strangest things to them to see just how much they have it in them to want to be in this industry. So if your tattooer doesn't have an apprenticeship or a shop, I don't trust that. I don't think anybody else should. Plus, diseases. Like, there's so many photos floating around where someone's laying on another person's couch getting tattooed, no gloves, and a dog walking by. Like, it's senseless. And even if you do get a disease, what are you going to do about it? You're going to sue Joe because you illegally got a tattoo done in his kitchen? No. You're stuck. Happy hepatitis. So, here in the state of Florida, it is illegal. I'm not sure about all the other states. In order to get a license for tattooing in Florida, it's kind of strange. You don't even have to be a tattooer to get a license for tattooing. So that's one of the things that's new that came up, and you just need like bloodborne pathogens and different things. So I'm not sure about licensing in the state of Florida. This is great. I love my bad tattoos. No, you don't. So a lot of times people will get one, and then they immediately want to cover it up. And a lot of times, it's their artist's fault. Yeah, I got this thing, I really don't like it because it's so small, and it's this, and it's that, and it's like, okay, you wanted something the size of a quarter with 15 things in it. It's going to look like that, And it's responsibility between the client and the artist. So if the artist is trying to tell you, no, you don't want an infinity sign on your wrist because you're not all the way through college. And I can't put 5 words in there because it'll mush together. And then a year later, you're like, look what he did to me. Be responsible. When you go to Google, Google's like the new internet-based flashball. There's so many things that I've seen on Google that I'm like, oh wow. And there's a couple of photos in here too. This is a great thing, typical girl tattoo form, and this floats around all sorts of tattoo shops. So it asks you which one you want. You know, you want the dream catcher, the feather, the anchor. I refuse to sink, you know, which is totally crazy for an anchor. Do you want a word or a quote? Of course you do. Write it below. And then it tells you about the placement, foot or wrist, upside down. So there's a big thing, and chances are if you're looking through it, you're going to see it where I want it facing me because it's for me. No, it's upside down. And you will get argued with. Your tattooer will argue with you. No, you can't put writing upside down because it's upside down. But then I can read it. Nobody else can, so it looks dumb. You know? These are some fun tattoos. I refuse to sink. It's one of my favorite. And they got, you know, the infinity symbol in there too, and an anchor. Doesn't make sense to me. And then, let's see, these are cute tattoos. That was a surge, and then the other one was feather tattoo. And I went through, and they have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, like half of them up there are the same feather with the same birds flying off of it. Yeah, this is a flashball. I'm sure that feather really means a lot to every single one of these girls. And the first girl to get it is probably livid. There's some more. Up close feathers. So, after you picked your artist, and he's argued with you not to get, you know, an infinity symbol, you need to know your manners, basically how to act. If you've never been tattooed before, okay, fine. Go into a tattoo shop. They're all about this big. All right, so if you want to get your first tattoo done, bring a friend. Don't bring 7. Because it's distracting to you, it's distracting to the tattooer, and a lot of times everybody's right on top of each other. So just bring as few people as possible. Look but don't touch is a fun one. This happens when you're healing or even when you are getting tattooed, because some people don't think of that. You know? Oh, what is this? Don't touch it. It's painful. It's a wound. Leave it alone. Just don't touch it. But look but don't touch is another big thing in a shop when someone is getting tattooed also. There's been so many times that I'm like, oh, can I watch? A lot of times they'll let you watch. Always ask. Be polite. But if you walk up to the chair and you're looking in, don't touch that chair. No matter what you do not bump that chair. It's like the end of the world if you bump the chair. So just don't do it. Just be very aware of your personal space and everyone else's. But yeah, definitely ask. You want to watch? Fine. Can I watch you? Then ask the client, do you mind if I watch? Because chances are, you know, sometimes there's a person who has their whole boob hanging out and they don't want you staring at it the whole time. So there's certain things to look at. And remember, you don't know anything. When you walk in, if you're not a tattoo artist, you do not know how to do tattoos. You don't know how they're supposed to be placed on your body. And if they're going to argue with you about it, trust them. Because they know what's going to work. And then just always remember, do not touch the chair because this will happen to you.